It's now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by, you guessed it, my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. You can get yourself a copy right now while you're watching or listening to this very show. Just visit Amazon.com, or if you're looking for a signed copy, just drop me an email, Billy at Talkin' Boxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by the website, BillyCBoxing.com. Check it out. We've got all the latest news and some articles written by, I write some occasionally, but Dax Khan's got his column, so check that out. And today's show is also being brought to us in part by CES Boxing, Classic Entertainment and Sports Boxing. They have two events coming up. One is October 25th, and one is November 2nd. You could visit our website, and on the right-hand side, there's banners for each one. Click it, and you can get tickets and get information and all that happy stuff. I'll give a shout-out to my man, Jesus, who's in the chat room. Never fails me. He's always the first guy in there. I will try to watch. He's asking me if I'm watching the fight tomorrow. I'm going to try. I definitely am going to be watching the fights on Saturday afternoon. Nick Wrecking Ball against Ronnie Rios. I'll be talking about that later in the show, breaking it down, giving you my predictions. Also, I'm asking everyone to make sure you follow us on YouTube and Rumble and X, which is formerly Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you click on the subscribe button, click on the like button, and do all that stuff. Also, subscribe to our podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, we should be there. Just search Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. And don't forget, join our Facebook group, the Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. And you can also Google my name. And we got a couple of different accounts, so check them out. Today, coming up a little bit later on the show, I'm going to be talking about why I feel the lack of meaningful club-level shows, we started talking about this last week, are really hurting boxing here in the United States. Also, last week we talked about grassroots promoting, and I mentioned two promoters, and the top one I mentioned was Jimmy Birchfield of Classic Entertainment and Sports, CES Boxing. Jimmy's going to join us a little bit later, and we'll chat with him. I'm going to break down and predict a sure-to-be action-packed fight scheduled for this weekend between Nick Ball and Ronnie Rios. It's on Saturday on ESPN+. I got some listener emails. I got some latest boxing news I'm going to give you my thoughts on. But first, I want to talk about what's going on with most of the so-called champions of today. You know, we're always talking, and years ago, my show here was, a lot of historical aspect were talked about, and we had different segments where we broke down heavyweights, we broke down old fighters of yesteryear you never heard of, and it was historical based. Okay. As time went on, a lot of the younger fans didn't seem to give two craps about that. We started going in different directions. But what I'm starting to see now is all the big champion fighters, regardless of the division they're in, really, they talk so much smack, right? They're talking crap, all this crap that they're talking. I want this guy, and they're tweeting each other, and oh, you're a bum, you're this and that. Oh, you're scared to fight me. Oh, and then all their fans, he doesn't. He's running from him. He's scared. He's this. He's that. Right? I'll give you an example. Tank Davis. All right, he's 30-0 with 28 knockouts. I personally love the guy. As a fighter, skill, power, speed. He's very exciting to watch. And for the last couple of months, all we've been talking about was, hey, why doesn't he fight? Vasily Lomachenko or Shakur Stevenson? Those two were going back and forth, or even the other champ, Denis Berinchyk. I mean, these are all other champions. I mean, let's face it. The bottom line is we want unified champions, right? And they're talking. Oh, I want to. Oh, we're negotiating. We're doing this, and he ends up announcing that he's going to fight Lamont Roach Jr. All right. Now, Lamont Roach Jr. is in a lower weight class. He's not even in the same weight class. True, he's currently the WBA champion. But the junior lightweight. So right off the bat, a guy like Tank Davis, who's talking smack, who's telling everybody that he'll fight Shakur, he'll fight Lomachenko, et cetera, ends up fighting this guy. And these are, listen, no disrespect to Roach, but Lamont Roach Jr., like I just said, he's in a lower weight class. It seems to be the easiest route for Tank, and we're supposed to accept this and then still put up with all the shenanigans and the BS that we hear from his camp. And then the other, Shakur Stevenson's another one. I've heard nothing but smack talk out of Shakur Stevenson, and the guy he's scheduled to fight, a not so stellar opponent, and besides that, they're never looking at top 10. I mean, look, if you look at Tank Davis alone. Give a shout out to my man Joel. Hopefully he'll get us on Thriller TV one of these days. He's a bigwig over there. I think he's running it now. I think his middle name is Thriller. But getting back to Tank Davis, there's other fighters he could be fighting. That's a meaningful fight. Okay. How about William Cepeda? Cepeda's ranked in every one of the sanctioning bodies at the lightweight division. He's number one in the WBC, WBA, IBF, and WBO. I mean, that is very uncommon in 2024 in any weight class. But okay, so you can't materialize a fight between Shakur Stevenson. Vasily Lomachenko had said that he wanted to take some time off. I'm sure that the other champ, Denis Berinchyk, he's chomping at the bit to fight any one of those big names. Tank Davis's team avoids all three of those. But why not Zapata? Why not William Zapata? I mean, here's a guy that's ranked number one in all the sanctioning bodies. Very rarely do you see that, where a guy's ranked number one in all of them because he hasn't gotten his title shot yet. As soon as if he got his title shot against Tank Davis, if Tank Davis had the whats to step in the ring with this guy, all of a sudden, if he was putting his WBA title on the line, which I'm sure he would, next thing you know, the other sanctioning bodies will drop him from the rankings. But right now, he's number one in all four sanctioning bodies. So why not Tank? If you're so good, Tank, why not? And don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of Tank Davis. I'm not dissing him for any reason except he chooses the easiest route. And then he'll pound his chest after he knocks out Lamont Roach, which we know he's going to do. Or even how about Keyshawn Davis? Keyshawn Davis is ranked number 3 in the WBC, IBF, and WBO. But here's the joke of it. He's not even ranked in the WBA. I'm always talking about how the WBA seems to be the least valuable of all of the belts. But that's my opinion. I mean, come on. I'm just using Tank as an example because I've been listening to all the crap for the last several months between going back and forth between him and Stevenson. And I know there was a lot of talk about Lomachenko, but Lomachenko made it clear that he wasn't going to fight for a few months. And then you got Baranchyk, I mean, you got some good fights. And even if you don't want to if you run into some sanctioning issues with the WBA or the other sanctioning bodies, you got William Cepeda, you got Keyshawn Davis, you got several other top-ranked fighters in the lightweight division. And who does Tank Davis pick? Who does his team pick? They pick a champion, but in a lower weight class. So I'm not impressed. And it's not just Tank Davis. It's all the champions. They seem to take the easiest route. Canelo Alvarez. People are screaming for Canelo Alvarez to fight David Benavidez, which I don't think it makes sense for him. But he's got a big money fight in Terrence Crawford. He's got a potential rematch with Dimitri Bivol. He's got all these options with top-ranked guys. And who does he pick? Edgar Berlanga. I mean, come on. And that fight turned out to be more entertaining than I ever thought it was. Shout out, like I said, to Jesus Joel. And now my man Coach is in the chat room. If you're watching or listening on another stream, come on over to the YouTube chat room. Give us your thoughts. So yeah, I don't get it with Tank Davis and a lot of the other champions. Speaking about not getting stuff, it was sad when I heard the other day that Pete Rose passed away, all-time hits leader, 83 years old. I mean, this guy. I mean, for me, when I was growing up, Charlie Hustle, that was his nickname, was the guy. I mean, one of my favorite, I'm a Mets fan, and one of my favorite Mets is Brandon Nimmo. And he reminds me when he runs to first base, when he walks, that's what Pete Rose used to do. My grandson who plays baseball, he does that, and, it sends a message, and Pete Rose was certainly one of the greatest of all time. 17 All-Star games. He won 3 World Series championships. He actually died a day after he was at an autograph show in Tennessee. He died from, it was announced that he died from high blood pressure and heart failure. I'm sure the story. He's not in the Hall of Fame because of the gambling situation. He was admitted to gambling on his own team. My opinion, even when it came out way back then, was that, when he was coaching, because he was a manager or playing, and if he's gambling on his team to lose, and he pulls out his starting pitcher and puts in a guy that can't throw a strike, and if he did something like that, or struck out on purpose, or if he did something like that, I would have agreed with this ban from the Hall of Fame. But he was always betting on his teams to win, and it was a personal conflict between him and the commissioner, the commissioner, and it's carried through all these years. But how ironic! I know I'm off topic here with boxing, but how ironic is it that Major League Baseball, and I know they're going to eventually put him in. It's just sad that the poor guy didn't get to see it, because that's all he wanted was the recognition of the Baseball Hall of Fame. But how ironic is it that he's being banned for that when today in 2024, Major League Baseball, as well as NFL football, I'm not a fan. I don't watch a heck of a lot of basketball or hockey as the major sports, but I do know that Major League Baseball and professional football are all, their major sponsors are all gambling sites. FanDuel, DraftKings, Fanatics, even ESPN has a betting site now. And you got commentators and you got players that are giving you their predictions and their plays, and yet Pete Rose didn't get into the Hall of Fame. So just had to mention that real quick. Some other news that caught my eye. I'm going to be jumping all over the place. It was kind of a slow week in the sports, especially with, like my man Coach says, PBC stands for Please Be Careful Boxing. And that's what we're talking about here with Tank Davis taking the easy route out. It's not just Tank; it seems to be all the champions of today ripping a page out of the Floyd Mayweather handbook of how to diss your fans, your the fans that pay your bills. And even Canelo is doing it too. But and coach is making a point that in boxing, fighters are betting on themselves all the time. They even do side bets that become part of contracts. I mean, come on, And speaking of which, you got Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia, if you recall, made a side bet with Haney about the weight. He didn't make it, and Haney got the money. Listen, I'm so sick of hearing about the Devin Haney against Ryan Garcia. Okay, look, Ryan Garcia beat the snot out of Devin Haney. Yeah, a couple of days they after all the testing was done, they found minute traces of a substance that was on the banned list. But truthfully, the New York State Boxing Commission, they could have prevented that fight from happening, but they did not. Devin Haney knew about it, and he could have bailed out of that fight, but he did not. And at the end of the day, Ryan Garcia beats the hell out of Devin Haney. I was never impressed with Devin Haney to begin with, but he gets beat from ring post to ring post, and next thing you know, it comes out that there was a trace of performance-enhancing drugs in Ryan Garcia's system. Not that they were active, but it could have been. It was a trace. I purposely stay out of the PED, but it is what it is. He got fined. They changed the win that Ryan Garcia had to a no contest. Then Haney starts with the he's undefeated again and blah, blah, blah between him and his father. It got real sickening. And then finally it died down. And I figured, okay, and then there's even talk of a rematch, right? Ryan Garcia is banned from boxing for another year. It was announced the other day that Devin Haney is suing Ryan Garcia for battery and fraud. Okay. Haney said, if he had known Garcia had ingested the performance-enhancing drug prior to stepping in the ring, he wouldn't have agreed to the fight. Therefore, he says he never contested to being on the wrong end of Garcia's punches. This is the most BS lawsuit I've ever seen or heard. First of all, the New York State Athletic Commission knew that there were traces. They let the fight continue. So for Haney to make it like he had no clue, there's no way that the New York State Athletic Commission would have kept that a secret between themselves and Ryan, or even just themselves. It wouldn't have happened. All right. The reason Haney got in the ring that night is because he thought for sure that he was going to beat Ryan Garcia, and he did not. And I tell you, he's never going to get the money. He's never going to have the fanfare. He's just a boring ass fighter. All right. And this whole battery and fraud case is just another example of not turning the page. It makes me sick, to be honest with you. My man, Coach, and for one, hope that Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney fight again, because you know why? Ryan Garcia is going to kick the snot out of him again. But then again, Ryan Garcia was talking some smack about Terrence Crawford. Coach says in 1983, Billy Collins Jr. sued his opponent, Louis Resto, but the much different scenario after Resto's trainer removed the padding from his gloves. This case that he's talking about was pretty well known at the time. They removed at that time there was no pad. The padding was horsehair, and Panama. What was his name? Panama Lewis, right? Panama Lewis was the trainer, and he removed the padding, and Billy Collins took a severe beating, and ended up being depressed over it and committed suicide. And You got Lewis. It was yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure it wasn't. It was Panama Lewis, right? His He was banned from boxing for life to this day. He was a good trainer, but made a bad mistake, and I think the rule is he can't be within five rows of what's considered ringside. So even if he's training a fighter, he can't be ringside. So anyway, speaking of Terrence Crawford, this kind of flew under the radar for me. Terrence Crawford and the WBO. The WBO had said to Terrence Crawford that him and Sebastian Fundora have to fight, and they ran out of time. And it was announced the other day that the Team Crawford requested from the WBO some more time to make an agreement between themselves and Sebastian Fundora to avoid purse bid, and they granted it. So that 10-day is in. We're in it now because September 30th was the 10 days that they added on. So coach is saying Crawford wants to fight McGregor. Listen, is Crawford saying he wants to fight him? I've never heard Crawford say it. I've heard people say that they want to do it. Who the hell wants another WWE? Crawford wants to fight Canelo, but we'll see what happens. But back to Terrence Crawford, in case you can't follow it, Terrence Crawford is a WBC champion in recess for the welterweight division. Remember, he's a junior middleweight champ, but the WBC still has him listed as the welterweight champion in recess. So if he decides to go back down to welterweight, he gets an immediate shot. That's how the WBC works. He's currently the WBA World Junior Middleweight Champ and the WBO Interim World Junior Middleweight Champ. Fundora, on the other hand, is currently the WBC and WBO World Junior Middleweight Champ. So should Sebastian Fundora and Terrence Crawford fight, if I'm Terrence Crawford, I'm trying to get it to be a unification fight, not only for the WBO version, but for the WBC and the WBA title that TC has. So I think the WBC rules would require him to let go of the welterweight division should he win, and they would remove him from that bogus champion in recess title. So I personally wouldn't mind seeing Terrence Crawford fight Sebastian Fundora for those three titles, WBA, WBO, and the WBC. And just to continue how bad the WBA is, all right? Jermell Charlo is their junior middleweight champion in recess, right? His last fight was his loss to Canelo, which was over a year ago. He shouldn't even be in the rankings anymore. Although rumor has it that he's looking to fight soon. J. Rock Williams or Demetrius Andrade are the two names that I've heard rumors that he might fight. But who cares? Charlo brothers are both frauds. I don't want to watch either one of them. How bad is the WBA? How about this one? Remember Mahomed Charr? They used to call him Manuel Charr, but now he's Mahomed Charr. He's still listed as the WBA's regular. And how crazy is that? That you actually have listed that you're just a regular world champion. He's their regular heavyweight champion. You know when his last fight was? December 21st of 2022. How do you keep a guy listed as a champion? First of all, how do you have a guy listed as a regular champion versus the real champion? I don't know. But for 2 years, This guy hasn't fought for nearly 2 years. He hasn't fought, and he's still listed. That's why, boys and girls, I think that the WBA is a useless organization. There's a big fight. I think it's a big fight this weekend on ESPN Plus. It's from one of my. Last week I was talking about how much I thought the UK boxing scene carried professional boxing on their backs. Nick the Wrecking Ball. His name is Nick Ball, but they call him the Wrecking and then Ball. He's a world champion now, WBA world champ, and he's putting his title on the line against Ronnie Rios. It's taking place on the other side of the pond. Look, this guy, Nick Ball, has been very active. And since he won the title, which, was in he won it. He fought only a couple of months ago. He fought in June when he beat Raymond Ford in an exciting fight. The guy fights a couple of months ago. So I'm not gonna rip him apart for taking the easy way out like Tank Davis. Tank Davis is a top-notch guy. When you look at Nick Ball, he's still arriving on the scene. Yes, he's got a title, but he's taken on Ronnie Rios. Now, Ronnie Rios, he's got a record of 34 wins, 4 losses, 17 of his wins coming by knockout, and 3 of his 4 losses all came by knockout. He was stopped by Robinson Castellanos in the 5th round back in 2014. He was also stopped in the 6th round by Art Hovasian in 2018. And he was stopped by Miro Akhurmadov in the 12th round back in 2022. And his 4th loss was a 12-round decision of Ray Vargas in 2017. He's 34 years old, 7 years older than Nick Ball. He's ranked number 34 by the computer. And the WBA, the Slimeball WBA sanctioning body, has him ranked at number 7. The computer has him ranked at number 34. But the WBA slid him in to number 7. And he's not even on the top 15 for the WBC, IBF, or WBO. Ronnie Rios is an exciting fighter, but his best wins, he's a former world title challenger. His best wins came in a 10-round decision years ago against Rico Ramos. Then in 2015, he got a 10-round decision over Jason Veliz. And in 2019, he got a 6-round stoppage over Diego De La Hoya. All 4 of his losses were against top opposition, or they were world title shots. He challenged for the world title several times, came up short each at a time. Now, he's had 38 total fights, 17 more than Nick Ball. He's got 234 rounds, which is 120 more rounds than Nick Ball. Like I said, he's 7 years older, and he's got some substantial reach. Now, when you look at Nick Ball, I love this guy. If you've never seen him fight, make sure you watch him this weekend. He's a nonstop action guy. Now, he gets a little crazy in the ring. Sometimes his fists are like lightning, and I don't mean fast. I mean like they don't hit the same spot twice. But he's 20-0 with a draw. He's got 11 of his 20 wins coming by knockout. He's the WBA world featherweight champ. The computer ranks him at number 7. He's got 17 less total bouts than his opponent, Ronnie Rios, and 120 less rounds at 114 versus 234. He's 7 years younger at age 27. He's given up not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, 5.5 inches. He's 5'2". He's given up 5.5 inches to Ronnie Rios. His best wins in his career in May of 23, he got a 12th round stoppage over Ludumo Lamadi. In November of that year, now follow the bouncing ball. This guy fights a lot. In November of that year, 2023, he won a 12-round decision over Isaac Dogby. And in June, he won a 12-round split decision win over Raymond Ford to win his title. So he's fighting, a couple months later, which is pretty impressive in my opinion. Now, one little note about Nick Ball is he had challenged Ray Vargas for his WBC world featherweight title in March of this year. So he fought March of this year. Then he fought in June of this year against Raymond Ford, and now he's fighting this weekend. I mean, all substantial fights. You would think that he would get a shot at some point, but this fight, how do I think it's going? I think that this fight, he's in there with a veteran. It's it's going to be a decent fight, but I think that Nick Ball is going to win. I'm picking Nick Ball. But what I was saying was when he challenged Ray Vargas for his title back in the beginning of the year in March, it was a weird fight. The fight ended in a 12-round split decision draw. And watching this fight, being a fan being a fan of Nick Ball, I thought he was a little wild that night. He was throwing punches. Some of them were landing, some of them weren't landing. But he had Vargas down in the rounds 8 and 11 officially, and he had him down in another round. But like I said, Ray Vargas was landing some decent shots with him, was sticking him and moving and outboxing him. But after he dropped him twice, at least got caught. I mean, I think he should have won this fight. Nonetheless, he did not. And at the end of the day, Nick Ball got his title in his last fight. But anyway, I'm picking Nick Ball in that one. Now, also on that card, and this is backing up what I was saying a little earlier about the UK last week when I was saying I thought the English boxing scene carried boxing on its back. Look at this. Two young fighters in the super lightweight division. Henry Turner, who's 13-0 with 5 knockouts, is going up against Jack Rafferty, who's 23-0 with 14 knockouts. Both of them are young fighters. Rafferty's 29, and Henry Turner is only 24. They're fighting each other. How often do you see that here in the United States? But anyway, as promised, boys and girls, joining us right now is, in my opinion, one of the best, at least in my time, one of the best grassroots promoters that I've ever been to events with. And he's still going strong from Classic Entertainment and Sports, CES Boxing. Jimmy Birchfield joins us right now. Jimmy, can you hear me?
Yes, Bill. How are you?
Good. How you doing, my man? You looking good?
I'm doing great. I hope you are as well.
Yes, I am. Jimmy, last week we were talking about grassroots promoting and stuff, and your name popped up because obviously you're the guy that I always think of when I think of real promoters. My hang up today is a lot of promoters don't promote, but you do. You still, I'm going to put up your fight posters here in a couple of minutes. You got back-to-back shows, October 25th and November 2nd. You've been doing this for a long time. Even before I was doing this show, I'm in my 21st year. I used to cover fights of yours for the websites and stuff. And what's your secret? I mean, you always have good sponsors. You always put on entertaining fights. The crowds are always there. You've been so successful in creating your brand. What's your secret?
Well, Bill, I think I was asked to speak at one of the colleges in their marketing department and sports management major. And some of the students asked me the same questions. And how have I been doing this and adjusted to over 30 years and stay in business? You have to have a love for boxing. Second of all, your insides have to be made out of cast iron because there are a lot of disappointment. Word, if I give a fighter my word, a network, a sanctioning body, it's going to happen no matter what I got to do to make it happen. And you have to entertain the fans. The fans are paying the bills. These, especially the blue collar, they're taking money. Things that happen right now, my eyes upside down because you got fights where some fighter is going to even stop very unfit to the fight and I don't.
Hey, Jimmy, can you hear me? I'm hoping you could still hear me. Your feed kind of just locked up. Are you there now? Yeah, Jimmy, if you can restart your connection, that would be great. Because we lost you. So hopefully Jimmy can get that. And like like he was saying, he said that you got to have a cast iron. That's so true because and I can't wait to ask him. With the way fights are now, he's been doing this for such a long time, and the way when he started, you could do fights affordably, and I'm dying to ask him how and what he thinks about him still going strong with the club level show, which is the backbone of boxing, and why so many other promoters are not doing it anymore. Now, I do know that there's some reasons for we talked about last week in some of the states like New York, New Jersey, Nevada. It's very hard to do a show where it could be profitable. But Jimmy Birchfield has been very successful. I would assume he's it's profitable for him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be doing it anymore. But I've been to many, many of his shows, and they're always very entertaining. As far as the cards themselves, they're always entertaining. And you get to meet young fighters, and then he's had some big names on his cards as well. Peter Manfredo Jr. was a big fighter of his that used to sell out the arenas. He had Vinny Pazienza fighting there. I think Vinny fought his last pro fight. He got his 60th win, I believe, on a Jimmy Birchfield event. So, and like Coach is saying in the chat room, Joe Smith Jr.'s first three fights were Jimmy Burt on his cards. So it's good that he's doing that, and he's still doing it after all these years. And I wish more people still stuck with it instead of bailing. There was a lot of what I call one and dones. A promoter comes out, they got the Don King disease, and they promote a show, and then you never see them again because they lost money. When I got inducted into the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame, I mentioned that how I lost my life savings in the sport of boxing, not once but twice. But once you get bit by the boxing bug, it never leaves you. But Jimmy, I guess, is having some technical issues, and hopefully he can come back. I know he was very busy today, but I really wanted to get some more thoughts on him. But jumping back to what I was just saying, the example of the UK and carrying boxing on their back. Here we got two young fighters in the super lightweight division, and they're fighting each other, which is great. All right, we got hopefully we got Jimmy back. How
Yeah.
you? All right.
I'm sorry, Bill, and I don't know where you lost me or what is the last that you heard to try to answer your question.
No. We just it started. It kind of went slow. It started sounding. I had people in the chat room saying, "What's he playing the guitar?" Because it sounded like hitting the string of a guitar. But anyway, you were saying that it basically takes some big whats to stick in boxing as long as you did, and you've put on some great shows. I was just saying, from big guys that you had on the world stage like Peter Manfredo. And of course, Vinny Pazienza. And then you've introduced us to a lot of talent at the beginning of their careers. I mean, the bottom line is from what I see, is you've maintained a nice steady flow of sponsorships and, of course, fans. They like your product. And we just lost his camera. But can you still hear me, Jimmy? All right, we're having some technical difficulties there. So I don't I apologize for that, and hopefully he can get back on. The internet has been cell phone coverage and all that has been a little crazy these last couple of weeks. I've been hearing a lot of people that are having some problems. But anyway, back to the fight real quick. I will say this. I'll put Jimmy's having a couple of shows that are coming up. This next one here is October 25th at Oceanside Event Center. Make sure I have the banners up on BillyCBoxing.com. So just click them and you can get yourself some tickets. And then a show that, man, I didn't realize, because I love when he does shows on at Mohegan Sun. I wish I would have known this a week earlier, because I really wanted to go. But in any event, we got Jimmy back. Jimmy, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So what's the secret of keeping these sponsorships and fans coming to your events?
Well, you got to sell out the events, and you got to entertain the fans. The fans pay the bills if they don't come to the event. So you got to give competitive fights, and sometimes it's hard because these kids don't want to fight each other.
Hey, Jimmy, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's an exact point. How much more difficult is it now to try to coddle these guys? Like, nobody wants to fight, even 4-round fighters years ago. You get them for $100 a round and they're dying to fight. They want to prove themselves. Now you're negotiating with a 4-round fighter. He's acting like he's a world champion. How do you deal with that?
That you hit that right on the head. And they're social media fighters, so
right.
You know that half of them can't fight. Period. They're not going to fight anyone. But you get to know, like this fight on November 2nd, Alessandro Paulino, who's undefeated and holds the WBC silver belt in the lightweight division, fighting Toka Khan. It's a very competitive fight. It's a 50-50 fight. And then we got this kid from Brockton who's undefeated, Kevin Walsh, fighting a kid from Worcester, Irving Gonzalez Jr., who had gone to the Olympic trials. So you want the fans realize, as we move along here quickly and rapidly, it's keep the fans excited and entertained, and they'll keep coming. And the fighters that don't want to fight each other, then you can't waste any time with them.
No, you're right. And, it seems like the younger fans today have less patience. That's why I know you do MMA too. And it seems like they seem to draw because the fan base, they don't want to watch a 10-round, 12-round fight. And they don't want the patience of the buildup of a fight, especially when promoters like yourself are going through the challenge of getting guys to even step into the ring, right?
Yes, I think that the MMA fan is younger, uh, and they party from the minute they come into the arena to when they leave. I think that when you say the younger generation, even in sports betting, they love to keep betting. One in the old days, you bet on a football game. If somebody was a 3-point underdog, that was your bet. Now they bet on what color Gatorade is going to be thrown on the coach. And is the coach? Is the commentator going to have sneaks or shoes on? It's crazy, and
Yeah.
uh,
And,
just
and, and,
and
and Pete Rose never got into the Hall of Fame. Poor guy, God rest his soul. And for gambling on baseball, I was talking about it before. And during the baseball game last night, I'm watching them advertising what to bet on. You know, they're a sponsor for them. You know.
I loved Pete Rose. He was a dear friend of mine, and uh, uh, hopefully someday he will somehow get into the Baseball Hall of Fame that he deserves to be there. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone, he admitted his mistakes, and consequently, hopefully he'll get there where he belongs. But Bill, I want to also compliment you as being grassroots and staying where you are for 21 years, and to keep the program going. And we used to have boxing writers, the old time boxing writers, that's all they did was write on boxing. They loved it. Well, as you know now with the media, there's no more specialists in certain sports. They got to take the responsibilities of doing 4, 5, 6 different stories on high school sports, on football, baseball, hockey, whatever it be. And once in a while, we'll get somebody writing about boxing. So I also want to compliment you, and I will always be here for you and anything I can do to keep that program going.
That's great. I really appreciate that, Jimmy. It means a lot to me. And some of the problems that I see with the sport, and one of our topics today kind of focuses around your success, because I believe that the heart of boxing, the backbone of the sport of boxing, begins at the club level shows. It's something that you've been able to maintain. You've been able to maintain that competition from a crosstown rival or New England rival. You know, a fighter from Rhode Island fighting a kid from Massachusetts, and they bring their fans and stuff. And that's what boxing used to be back in the day. You could have a career in one state and then finally move on and start becoming nationally known. And that seems to have disappeared. And I understand a lot of the reasons why. The cost of doing shows, especially in big areas, big commissions like New York State and Nevada and New Jersey. So a promoter, it doesn't make financial sense. But when you're battling that, plus the fighters want so much money, then all the other things involved, it makes it very difficult. But how, in your opinion, how's boxing going to survive without the club shows, the amount of club shows that we used to have versus now? I mean, these fighters, the fans seem to just look at the record. They don't look at the fighters. We were talking about fighters in England that have double, even triple digit losses that, people just immediately think they're no good. Oh, they were a bum. They're this and that. When they can actually fight, they just don't know how to win. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you could also look at some of the Philadelphia fighters that, might have 5 or 6 losses on their record, but they can fight. They can fight. And I think that England does. Listen, we had brought a Polish heavyweight that we had that I put him in Maurice Wach with the Klitschko brothers for the world title. And you just look at the other night, they had 90,000 people in the arena. So boxing, look, I don't like to be negative. It isn't like I want to find ways and solutions to fix this all. In the meantime, if you don't have a program and you don't keep some consistency, okay, then boxing won't be able to stay alive. We need the club shows positively, but how are they going to get funded? How is a promoter going to make money? Consequently, the networks, okay, they have to wake up. It can't be a one. And listen, some of these guys are my dear, dear friends, and it has to be talked about because it's got to be, you got to be able to compete. You got to be able to get TV dates because as you develop a fighter, okay, you got to be able to pay that fighter. You got to be able to pay that fighter, and the only way you can pay that fighter what he deserves to be paid is have TV. So if it's all locked up with one or two or three promoters, where are you going to go? It's unfair competition. And that is how you're going to keep boxing because, listen, you're not going to get a major promoter that's going to get a kid that he's going to turn pro and they're going to put him, they do, occasionally they do, but in general, it takes a lot of time and effort. Listen, if you're a parent, you know what it takes to grow up your children. You got to teach them how to walk, crawl, run, eat. This is what you got to do with a young fighter. So consequently, we've been fortunate enough that our brand stands for itself. So when we talk to a potential sponsor, or we're talking to developing a fighter, or we're talking to a network, they listen to us because they know we know how to get there and we know how to get it done. So some of these younger promoters that might be coming up, that, everyone, Bill, in this business, they come to an event, they see the place full, and they say, wow, Jimmy made $1 million tonight.
Yeah.
And everyone looks at an event. Everyone's got this false situation that you make millions and millions in boxing. Okay, that isn't so. What is so? Yes, as a potential, when a fighter says to me, "I want to sign with you, Mr. B," why? Why do you want to fight? If he says anything less than "I want to be a world champion," then I say, "You know what a world champion is? He's a freak." Okay, he's making accomplishments he's not supposed to. So, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to take them challenges? We have developed right now a stable. We have some hungry, talented female and male fighters that have this path to climb up this mountain to a world champion. Will they all be world champions? No. But there's some talent, there's some great talent that I don't think any other promoter can look at and say they have them in their camp. We do. And we've done this, Bill, with this grassroots way we work. That's the only way we do it. And you hope that, with some of these people, some of the fighters, we're going to make them world champions.
Well, that's I agree 100%. And the willingness on the fighter's part is key. And the only other obstacle would be if they're too good that a champion won't give them the opportunity to fight, which I'm sure you struggle with that at times too. But I just wanted to make a point about the TV networks that you made a comment. The technology today, we call it TV. Old guys like you and I call it TV, right? But really, TV is no different than streaming. It's just a different way of getting it to the listener or viewer base, right?
Yeah.
Now, when I was promoting shows and doing some stuff, and our model was to give the streaming, just like you, build up a following with your sponsorships and your fans, and with the fighters, of course. I felt that the streaming was the future. This is going back, and that what we did was we give the stream for free. So a club show, you stream that card, you start to develop a viewership, and as you stream a couple of cards, the viewership grows. Once you get a substantial number, now you can use that as sponsorship lure, so to speak, right? And
Yeah.
then as you're building up that young fighter, let's say you had a pro debut fighter that gets on your first stream and you stream him 5-6 times, and now he's got 10 and 0 or something, and he fights for a regional title, a state title, something like that. That's when you do the pay-per-view, whether it's a small $9.99. What's happening today is, and you're right, I call it the Don King syndrome. Everybody sees your sold out crowd. They're saying Jimmy's making $1 million. I too want to make $1 million. They become a fight promoter. They lose their ass in the first one, and then they never do another show again. And that's actually bad for the sport. And
Yes.
I think that the greed factor with a lot of these younger promoters that are coming out now that are putting these smaller shows, but they're charging people. They're chasing fans away, because who's going to just out of the blue pay? I don't care if it's $5 or $50. If they don't know who the fighters are, they're not going to buy it. I mean, that's my view. What do you think?
Bill, there is an event that I don't do, that we announce, that I don't receive 10 to 12 calls from different people wanting to buy a spot on our show. And I say, I don't promote that way. Okay. I don't do that, but it is. I mean, and you got some of the promoters that when they do put a fighter on, they can sell some tickets. So, and you've been there, you probably witnessed some of this, that they take them ticket sales, and the opponents, all the opponent's cost has to be paid. And then what's left, they might split 60-40. So the fighter don't even know whether he's going to get any kind of a purse. But on the same token, they're very bad opponents. So some of these kids think, well, I'll build up my record. When I get to 10 and 12 and 0, then somebody will give me $1 million bonus to sign with them. So it's so backwards that it isn't even funny. So I think that, first of all, like the day of a fighter, even a manager will take a fighter that he's got under his ropes and start shopping them around and prostituting them around and buying dates. So these kind of guys, they've got some financial will behind them. They've got some money, okay? But they get burnt out, as you know, Bill. They come and go. They lose their shirts, and then they're out of the business. And actually, when you get to that point too, they saturate the market with purses or stuff that you can't compete with.
Right.
Crazy. So
You know,
that has to flush out. And I just fold my hands, keep our program going, okay? And listen, you came up with the biggest situation that actually I and my team have been working. So you're right on target on the streaming, okay? And we still haven't got a proper a partner. 5 years we've been working on that. Way before HBO, Showtime, all of them went. We had the pulse on this, and I can't tell you the hours and money and time. My son Jimmy has worked on that project for over 5 years. Now, hopefully, we will come up, because you have the situation. We have to expose the younger fighters. So that's free. And then when you build them up to, like, let's say where Paulino is right now fighting Toka Khan at Mohegan Casino, November 2nd, that's a fight everyone wants to see. Now, I don't know also if I have liberty or it's kosher. I can do this on your program, but I would like to give a couple of pair of tickets, both of them events, and you want to do some kind of contest or whatever for October 25th. What Rashidi Ellis is the main event on that show, and another big fight on that is undefeated Francis Hogan fighting Elvin Ayala. So that show up in Boston and Revere is a very good show. We'll be opening that market up big time, as well as the November 2nd. It's just a packed card, and the Connecticut Boxing Hall of Fame is having their gala dinner in the afternoon of November 2nd to coincide with us uh, for the fight at night. And Mike Mazzulli, who is the commissioner at Mohegan, also the president of the ABC, is getting inducted. One of our fighters, Gary Tiger Boletto, is getting inducted into the Connecticut Boxing Hall of Fame as well. And Holyfield has already committed that he's going to be at that dinner and at the fights November 2nd. So this is what keeps everything burning. And this comes up from grassroots promoting. Okay. And some of these kids see that they can be into a show. We just got to wake up some of the media and TV networks and the streaming services that there's more than one or two or three shows in town. And there are promoters like myself working their ass off out there to keep boxing alive. Okay. And without us, there is nothing else.
Correct. I agree 100%. Listen, so the streaming, I just wanted, we were doing before everybody started doing it. We were doing shows. I was doing a lot of them with a group called LDL TV, and a lot of them were in Florida and Georgia, and that's how we started, and it worked. A lot of people started copying it, and John Musciunas, who was the producer of LDL TV, is currently working with Don King, so he's been put it on the shelf, but that is definitely the future. So you're going the right way. It was something that I've been involved with for a long time. I really enjoyed my broadcast partner. We used to do the live events together. Sal Senacoli, he passed away. So it kind of, it wasn't the same anymore. And I'm always, looking to do that. But
Bill, you have a natural voice for it, and you have the wisdom and knowledge of the sport. An old time, you'll remember this name, Ron Borges from Boston. It's kind of the same situation. He retired from writing for the papers in Boston, but he was a specialist in boxing. And listen, it is a great sport. If you have a fan that's never been to a live boxing event and they come one time, they'll be so.
That's it. Well, all it takes is one time. And you're right. With boxing, it's not like any other sport. It's totally different live. Like, in other words, I tell people all the time, I mean, unfortunately, I'm a Jets fan. I had season tickets for the Jets for 30-something years, 33 years. And I'd give the tickets away because TV got to the point where it was a better broadcast for me. I see better. I get a commercial. I could go grab something to drink, go to the bathroom, whatever. But boxing's not like that. I can't miss a punch. You have to be there. And there's stuff that they just cannot transmit through the TV or streaming or anything that you see live. And there's no other sport like it.
Definitely. And in tribute to each and every fighter that enters them stairs and gets into that ring, they're very special. They're you gotta have courage. You don't have no teammate. You don't have anyone to pass the ball to or block for you. You're there. The only teammate you have is your fans that come to see you fight. So there's two big things that we're working hard in finishing up 2024, as well as getting into our series of 2025. Streaming is number one, and getting a partner that we can live and grow with. And I'm telling you, I've been working on that for 5 years. And secondary is making world champions and give them the platform to get there. And kind of what we did with Jermaine Ortiz, and to this day, I still feel that he beat Teofimo Lopez, but he made some mistakes. He had him missing so much, but as you being an expert in boxing, he had to throw more punches. But that's what this is all about. This is what keeps my fires burning. and each one of these fighters become part of my family, and I care about them, and I care that we not only watch them in the ring, but we try to direct them in life. Like, yeah, we've just signed a young kid that looks like he's 18 years old. He's from Connecticut. He's going to be fighting on November 2nd show. His name is Joseph Chisholm. He looks like the whole package. And he left school. He left. He got actually five colleges he could go to. And he said, I said, Joseph, you got to go to school. You got to be able to do both of these things. Okay? You just got to do that, because basically we care about these kids, and the percentages of any one of them becoming a world champion and making some serious money is, as you know, it's very slim.
Yeah. Well, no, it's great that you guide them. You know, you can tell that you care, because somebody that wouldn't care would be just quick to get their claws into him and not tell him that there's life after boxing. Two points I want to make, Jimmy. First, somebody in the chat room before you said that said Jermaine Ortiz. I felt he beat Teofimo Lopez. It was right here in the chat room, and you said the same thing. And if I didn't know the person in the chat room wasn't you, I would have thought it was you. The other thing is that, you know, the what's very important, and you touched on it earlier. What's very important is that a fighter gets, when you were talking about managers and promoters, you know, and the craziness, they want to buy a fight on your card and put him in there with a, you know, practically not a live guy. What happens is they're building up a record for this fighter so he has an O. And what they're really doing is no favors for the fighter, because if you don't increase the level of opposition of your young fighter, where they're taking a slight step up every time they get in the ring, they're never going to get better. I use the analogy like, if the best football team played the worst football team for a whole season and was undefeated, are they really the best team? You know, if they're not challenged, they're not going to get better. And boxing's the same way. It's the way some of the fans interpret it, where they just look at the record, you know. And this is why I thought that the English boxing scene was so much better than the U.S., only because the fans don't bail on their fighter when they lose. You know, they're still fans. You know, they're fans of the fighter. He wasn't the better guy that night. You know, go back to the gym and work on what you did wrong. You know, and you know, that's what we need.
Yeah, but Bill, them kind of out there, them losses are not against ballerina dancers. I call them ballerina dancers. Okay, and consequently, even if you're trying to get a fighter on a network or in a position, you know, when they become knowledgeable and they look at the records and they see you've got 12 wins against someone 2-12, someone 4-17, it means nothing to them. They laugh at you. And that's what these kids have to understand, that they're not going anywhere. Where maybe they'll get one fight as an opponent and get knocked out, because, as you just said, whoever's in charge of that fighter is just fooling the fighter and himself and wasting their money, because you got, even I tell the fighters, even when they're sparring, listen, if you don't train hard, you can't fight hard. Okay? And as you go on, we may look at a 55-45 fight until we see what a fighter is got. But then you got to get, you know, you got to get into the real fight. This kid, pay attention to this kid, Joseph Chisholm. And this kid is 18 years old. And as long as he don't make any mistakes outside the ring, he's going to be he's going to be a name that people are going to get to recognize very, very quickly.
Well, I tell you, I'm looking forward to being at your shows. I've missed a bunch of them, and Mario has been great keeping me in the loop. And when I saw the November 2nd day, because I'm a big fan of first of all, Mike Mazzuli's a great guy, and I'm a big fan of Mohegan Sun. But you know, it's a card I don't think I'm going to be able to make. But
Bill, it's Mohegan Sun is one of our favorite places to be at, and consequently to work a situation the same day as their induction of their gala with the Connecticut Boxing Hall of Fame, and then these kind of fights, you know, that we're going to be doing at night. It's a boxing addict's dream to be in that place, and who knows who else is going to be there. But I do want to tell you, no matter what we do, wherever it is, you stay.
Jimmy, I lost you there, buddy. But listen, I will get a hold of you. I appreciate your time, and we had a bad connection with you. So I appreciate your time, and I'll reach out. And good luck with the shows. I'm going to promote it now, and keep up the good work, because Jimmy Birchfield is one of these guys that we need in the sport of boxing, and I hope that if anybody's going to, you know, get into the sport of boxing, they need to. We got Jimmy back again. Man, we're having some problems with your connection.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you know, and now I got a perfect picture. You know, before we had half of you. I was really studying all the photos behind you, but you know, Jimmy, I just wish that young promoters would take the time to see what you're doing, and not that they could ever duplicate it, but at least learn something, because we need 500 more guys like you in the sport of boxing. You know, people are always asking me, "Oh, how does boxing get back into the mainstream?" Well, I'll tell you, I don't see it happening unless we have more promoters like yourself, and we need the fighters to be willing to fight. And you know, if they're willing to step in there and fight non-ballerinas, like you said, which I agree with 100%, they're only going to get better. And that's what I like about the fans, and the fans that you've developed, Jimmy. You've developed knowledgeable fight fans. And I don't know if anybody's ever mentioned that to you, or if you realize that yourself, but that's something that me as an outsider can see, because, you know, I compare it to what I see elsewhere. And your fan base, they cheer their fighters on. You mentioned Gary Boletto. I used to love watching him. I used to, when you guys did the shows, Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun, and you know, the only places I really didn't go a lot was the Rhode Island shows, only because it's just such a long drive for me. But you know, all of those cards, they were always so entertaining, and that's your secret. And you know, it's something that you've been able to maintain all these years, and I wish there was 100 more guys like you, brother.
Well, Bill, I will tell you what, any young promoter, I would be honored for them to trail me and talk to me, and because I love the younger people are the tradition that's going to keep us going. So I would be honored to be able to give everything I've got of knowledge and wisdom into the sport. And I think, listen, the other thing is, you've got to be able to adapt to change. It's like you doing radio right now. Look at the things you've had to change, and we adapt. We have to adapt. It may be on a weekly basis, but the technology and everything else, we got to look at what's happening in 2030, not 2024. And I have one of the most talented young team, educated. They love both boxing and MMA, and our infrastructure. If you know, if I'm not in play, I know that CES can continue, and I pride myself with that as well.
Well, Jim, Listen, I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy, and we got to do this again sometime. And on a side note, it's been a long time since I've shook your hand face to face, and I hope we get to do that soon. Maybe even go out for a bite or something like that, man. I'd really look forward to it because I have a feeling we could talk boxing for hours and hours.
Well, listen, I want to give you an Italian hug. We'll have a good Italian dinner and break some bread together. So, but now, are you allowed to give some tickets away on your program for them two events?
Of course, of course. You can you could work that out with me through email, and I'll do a contest just like you suggested, and we'll get them out there.
All right, Bill. Thank you for having me. Keep up the great work, and to your fan base, keep listening to Bill because he does it the right way, and one of the true boxing people that has wisdom and can speak with some authority.
Thanks a lot, Jimmy. You have a great day, man.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That's my man, Jimmy Birchfield from CES, Classic Entertainment and Sports, CES Boxing. They have a couple of shows coming up, and you just heard the man say he's going to get us some tickets to give away. So they have one October 25th happening. It's their Halloween knockout show, Oceanside Event Center in Massachusetts, Revere, Massachusetts, I believe. I was checking that card out. I wanted to go so bad, and the thing is this show, excuse me, the one I'd really like to go to November 2nd. When I go to the Mohegan Sun, I like to stay there, and they really didn't have any rooms left. And now I know why. That was affordable for a poor man like me, so but it sounds like, well, Jimmy always puts on a good show. So, we'll get some tickets for that, and we'll get them away. So, hey, listen, I know I went over. I just want to mention that coming up on the 17th, we got Mark Allen Baker, who's got a slew of really cool boxing books. The Lou Ambers book is the one that I'm finishing up now. We'll have him on and talk about that. But when you get a chance, go to the website, BillyCBoxing.com, and scroll down on the right-hand side of the screen, and you will see some of his book titles, and you could click to learn about him. He's going to be coming on the show. I got a couple of emails I'll mention real quick. This one's from my man Jordan. He says, "Hey, Billy C, I was meaning to send my email in time for the show." This was last week. He said, but I messed up. Just a few points on the heavyweight division. I wasn't overly surprised by Saturday's result, maybe just how quickly the downfall began. He's talking about Dubois and AJ. He says, going off Dubois' last two performances, it was clear that he would stick it on AJ, and I just didn't think AJ could withstand any onslaught from Dubois would bring. The only other fighter to put it to him like that was Ruiz, and we saw how flustered AJ became. He says, credit to AJ for continually getting up and deciding to roll a dice in the fifth when he knew he was running on empty legs. That first right hand he landed was sickening. You heard the sound on TV. Surely there isn't anybody who would have stood up to that. On Dubois, did you ever see a turnaround like this from taking a knee from a jab against Usyk 1 year ago to his last 3 KOs, taking big shots in the process? The knee against Joyce was different matter. I believe he fractured his orbital bone and partly detached his retina, so I think he could be let off the hook. Jordan, thanks for the email. I have full faith in Dubois. As far as Anthony Joshua, if you caught last week's show, I was very disappointed at the fact that he didn't know what the hell to do, and his corner gave him no information, zero. And I'm a little disappointed that he says he's going to be continuing his career. My man, Coach, who's in the chat room, he says, just to mention on something you mentioned last week, Saturday's Nick Ball versus Ronnie Rios. Some well-matched fights, plus the mentioned experienced test of super welterweight Walter Fury, the 27-year-old cousin of former world heavyweight Tyson Fury. What's your thoughts on the card? It's a good card. I mentioned the Henry Turner Jack Rafferty fight. I'm looking forward to it. There's some other really good fights on the card as well. And the good news is, for me anyway, it starts early. This fight card starts, I think, at 2 or 2:30 on ESPN Plus. So check it out. Hey, listen, boys and girls, I know I went over, but we had Jimmy Birchfield, a class act, on. I know we had some technical difficulties, but at least we heard what Jimmy was saying. I know their video shot was not that great, but I appreciate everybody sticking around, and make sure you tune in next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.